Dear Chosen One, you have felt it in your bones for as long as you can remember. The weight of something greater than yourself. Something unspoken, yet undeniable. You are not just living an ordinary life. You are carrying a destiny written long before you were born. There is a reason you feel different. Why the world never seemed to fully embrace you. Why the road you walk has been marked with solitude, rejection, and unseen battles. The truth is this: you were chosen to stand in the gap between darkness and light, to lead not just yourself, but an entire nation of souls into awakening. You must understand, this calling is not about power, nor is it about control. It is about becoming a light when everything around you insists on remaining in shadows. The government of darkness is not only an external system, it is a web of lies, fear, and illusions that have ruled humanity for centuries. But your presence, your awakening, is the beginning of its collapse. That is why your life has been so heavily contested, because you carry the frequency that can dismantle what generations before could not overcome. And in this moment, you are being summoned to recognize what you truly are: a leader, a guide, a beacon. Before we continue deeper into this revelation, I want you to take a moment and declare it openly. If this message resonates with your spirit, leave a comment below and write the words, "I will lead," not as empty letters, but as a spiritual decree to the universe. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and let us walk this journey together. Because what I am about to share will not only confirm your hidden battles, but also reveal the profound destiny you were created to fulfill. The weight you have carried was never only the sum of your personal storms. It has been the pressure of a spiritual mantle, pressing you into maturity before your time. Somewhere deep in your chest, you have always known your healing would not end with you, that your breakthroughs would become bridges others could cross when their strength ran thin. That strange exhaustion you feel after silent battles is not weakness. It is the fatigue of someone who fights on more than one front, within and beyond, seen and unseen, private and collective. You have been walking through rooms where the atmosphere shifted because your spirit was negotiating for people who didn't even know your name. That is why your victories feel heavier than celebrations. They are relief missions accomplished in secret. When you wondered why your heart felt older than your age, it was because destiny kept pulling tomorrow into your today. And though you did not ask for this mantle, it recognized you long before you recognized yourself, waiting for the day you would stop apologizing for your light and start standing as its keeper. Isolation has been the classroom where your soul learned the language of heaven without outside noise. And it hurt because silence always amplifies everything we tried to avoid. You watched familiar rooms become foreign, friendships loosen without explanation, doors close that looked perfect on paper but felt wrong in your bones. You were not abandoned, you were set apart, because intimacy with God rarely thrives in crowded places that demand constant performance. In those quiet corridors, you learned to hold your ground when emotions surged, to distinguish intuition from fear, to hear the still, small voice when the world was shouting alternatives. Loneliness did not shrink you. It refined your appetite so counterfeit connections would no longer satisfy. What felt like exile was calibration, stripping you from the need to be understood so you could become unshakable when misunderstanding inevitably came. And every night you cried into a pillow became ink for a future message that will dry the tears of those who are where you once were. Rejection carved channels in you where compassion could flow without bitterness, and though the sting was real, it also served as a compass pointing to terrains you were never meant to inhabit. You were not discarded because you lacked substance. You were resisted because your presence disturbed arrangements that relied on everyone staying small. People who live by artificial light will always flinch when a true flame walks in, because truth reveals where comfort built altars to convenience. Each closed door preserved you from agreements that would have diluted your purpose, and every misunderstanding rehearsed you to speak clearly when the time to lead arrives. Remember how your spirit tightened around invitations that looked golden but felt heavy. How your peace evaporated around rooms that praised you while pulling you off center. That tension was mercy. It kept your oil untainted, so when you pour it, it will heal rather than entertain. Rejection did not reduce you. It proofed you against the need for validation. So your yes to God would not be auctioned to applause. When I say government of darkness, I am naming a system older than any empire and subtler than any law. A spiritual regime that thrives by convincing people that fear is wisdom and numbness is maturity. It governs by suggestion more than decree, by narratives more than chains, by exhaustion more than violence. It teaches families to pass down survival patterns as sacred traditions, rewards cynicism as intelligence, and markets distraction as medicine. It turns trauma into identity and pain into personality, then offers shallow fixes that keep the wheel spinning. This regime is not housed in a palace. It nests in habits, assumptions, and collective agreements that no one remembers signing. Yet when a chosen one awakens, the fabric of that regime begins to tear, because one life aligned to truth exposes 10,000 small lies that were hiding in plain sight. Your very awareness is insurgency. Your alignment is a vote no darkness can outcount. These structures rarely announce themselves. They prefer to masquerade as common sense and callings as coincidences. They frame self-betrayal as loyalty, normalize environments where your spirit must hold its breath, and insist that silence is peace when it is actually suppression. They show up in workplaces where gifts are used but never honored, in relationships where your empathy is mined but your boundaries are mocked, in cultures that demand performance while penalizing authenticity. You began to notice it when your body reacted to what your mind kept excusing, when your dreams contradicted the ceilings others swore were permanent. Every time you chose integrity over image, a hidden wire snapped. Every time you told the truth to yourself, a gate opened. That is why you have felt both lighter and lonelier lately. You are stepping out of agreements that once made you belong, and belonging to yourself will always be the first scandal in any system built on conformity. Awakening is not a gentle sunrise. It is often an earthquake that rearranges furniture you thought was nailed to the floor of your life. You start realizing that what you called stability was simply predictability, and predictability is a poor substitute for peace. The roles that once kept you safe begin to itch. The masks you perfected begin to crack under the heat of honesty. You grieve versions of yourself that served a purpose, and you bless them as you release them, because keeping them would mean betraying the person your spirit is becoming. This rupture is the birth canal of leadership, the disorientation, the shedding, the ache of stretching into rooms you cannot yet fully see. You are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment, and alignment always costs the scaffolding that kept you upright when you didn't know your own spine. What leaves now leaves because it cannot follow you into clarity. And here is the thread you have felt tugging at you in the night. Your personal transformation is the blueprint for a people you have not met yet. The questions you wrestle with at 3 in the morning are the curriculum for those who will one day look to you for language when all they have is ache. The reason your process has been so thorough is because shortcuts create leaders who crumble under the weight of those who trust them. Heaven is not preparing you to be impressive. Heaven is preparing you to be responsible with power, to carry authority without performing, to move crowds without manipulating them. There is a reason only some are called to lead a nation into the light. The path is narrow, the training is exacting, and the heart must be tender enough to feel people and strong enough not to be swallowed by their pain. You are being shaped for that balance now, and the evidence is the very tension that makes you wonder if you are enough. You have also sensed, though you could not name it, that you were hidden on purpose, kept from premature platforms that would have applauded your gifting while starving your roots. Visibility without depth is the trap that has swallowed many bright souls, and the government of darkness loves nothing more than to promote a voice whose inner life is empty, because collapse then becomes inevitable and public. Your obscurity has been sanctuary, the greenhouse where character caught up to calling, and where your appetite was cleansed of the addiction to being seen. Soon the veil that kept you unseen will serve as a mantle that keeps you steady, because you will rise with the memory of silence in your bones and the humility of someone who knows who carried them. And when the time comes, and it is nearer than you think, you will recognize it not by crowds, but by clarity, not by noise, but by the weight of peace settling on your chest, like a final confirmation that the season of hiding has finished its holy work. The invisible attacks against your soul have always been proof of the magnitude of your mission. Many times, you felt heaviness without cause, sudden discouragement that came like a wave, confusion that appeared just when you were about to make progress. These are not coincidences, chosen one. They are strategies of an unseen enemy that fears what will happen if you fully step into your calling. The government of darkness invests energy in trying to silence you because it knows that your voice carries the kind of resonance that can awaken sleeping souls. If you have ever felt targeted, it is because you are, but not in the way you think. You are targeted because you are dangerous to systems built on lies. And every time you rise, even in weakness, you send tremors into the camp of the enemy. Before you can lead a nation into the light, you are asked to win the war within your own mind. This is perhaps the greatest battlefield of all, the arena where doubt wrestles with faith, where fear challenges vision, where past traumas whisper louder than present promises. Many underestimate this inner conflict, but the truth is that a person who cannot lead themselves cannot lead others. Every lie you have confronted inside yourself, every limiting belief you have dismantled, every inner voice that told you to quit but met your resistance, those were not small victories. They were the shaping of a leader. God did not call you to perfection. He called you to courage, and courage is proven first in the unseen chambers of the soul. Your solitude, though painful, was never wasted time. It was training ground. In those lonely seasons, you learned what crowds cannot teach: how to discern truth when it is unpopular, how to stand when there is no applause, how to hold conviction when compromise seems easier. You discovered that your spirit can survive without external validation, and that kind of resilience is unbreakable. The desert was never about punishment. It was preparation. Like David watching sheep in obscurity before leading a kingdom, your solitude has forged in you the quiet strength that will anchor you when visibility comes. Without the desert, leadership would destroy you. With the desert, leadership will mature you. Loss has been another teacher on your path. You have lost people, opportunities, and versions of yourself that once felt essential. And each loss felt like a tearing, painful, disorienting, sometimes even humiliating. But loss also made space. If everything you once wanted had stayed, there would be no room for what is meant to come. Some of the relationships that ended were not betrayals, they were releases. Some of the dreams that crumbled were not failures, they were redirections. The government of darkness tries to convince you that loss means you are cursed, but heaven whispers that loss is often evidence of a higher exchange. You are not losing to be emptied. You are losing to be filled with something greater. The dilemma you face is this: will you remain adapted to a system designed to keep you small, or will you dare to answer the call that feels bigger than your capacity? To stay adapted is to remain safe, predictable, unnoticed. To step out is to risk misunderstanding, judgment, even persecution. But safety has never been your destiny, and compromise has never been your true inheritance. The truth is, every time you try to shrink, your soul resists. Every time you try to conform, your spirit aches. You cannot stay where you were, because where you were no longer matches who you are becoming. The dilemma is painful, but it is also divine pressure moving you into alignment. The weight pressing on you is not punishment, it is divine urgency. It is the universe, or God Himself, reminding you that time is short and your light cannot be delayed any longer. Have you noticed how your spirit feels restless in places that once satisfied you? That restlessness is not failure. It is calling. It is heaven's way of saying that there is more to do, and you cannot waste another season dimming your flame. When you feel the pressure to move, it is not to crush you. It is to birth you. You are carrying nations inside you, and they cannot remain unborn forever. The labor pains you feel are the contractions of destiny, pushing you into the next dimension of your assignment. And so, dear chosen one, the growing tension in your life is not chaos, it is convergence. Everything that has felt heavy, conflicting, and overwhelming is leading you to a threshold. You are standing on the edge of a revelation that will not only explain your past, but also unlock your future. The battles, the losses, the loneliness, the dilemmas, they are all threads of a larger tapestry. And soon you will see the full picture. But before that unveiling, you must hold steady. You must not surrender now, for what is coming is bigger than you imagined. You are closer to breakthrough than you realize, and the very intensity of the conflict is proof of how near you are to the unveiling of your mission. The revelation is this: your calling was never designed to terminate in personal relief. It was engineered to become a lighthouse for an entire people whose names you do not yet know. You were preserved through storms because nations had to survive through you. And the proof is how your spirit would not let you settle for a smaller life, even when comfort begged you to stop. What you have endured has been an apprenticeship in discernment, so that when you speak, you do not echo popular noise, but release clean guidance. God did not merely rescue you, He commissioned you. And that commission is the reason the government of darkness has been so invested in your exhaustion. The moment you accept that this is about more than you, your pain reorganizes itself into purpose, and your story becomes a map rather than a museum. You are not only coming out, you are coming out carrying instructions, language, and courage for those who will follow your steps through terrain you already learned to cross. This is why your heart beats faster when you hear the word leader, even if your mind argues you are not ready. Your bones remember agreements your biography has not caught up with yet. The turning is not in the future. It is happening now, in the room where you are deciding to stop hiding the authority you were trusted to carry. Long before time placed your name in a family line, your spirit was spoken to, and the echo of that conversation has followed you into every season. Some call it a soul contract. Scripture calls it foreknowledge, as when God said, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." In Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, a declaration that identity precedes chronology. This is why you have felt strangely familiar with pathways you have never walked before, why instructions sometimes arrive as memory rather than novelty, why obedience feels like recognition more than compliance. The government of darkness cannot rewrite what was written before time, so it specializes in distraction, delay, and distortion. It cannot erase your name, so it tries to confuse your voice. Yet every time you return to stillness, you can hear the original sentence again, quiet but unbroken, guiding you back to your assignment. That original sentence is not a prison. It is a pathway, and the more you walk it, the lighter your steps become. Your life is not random, chosen one. It is resonant with promises older than your fears. You have been placed as a living bridge between worlds, carrying the language of an ending era in one hand and the blueprint of a new era in the other. This is why you often feel stretched, because translation is costly, and pioneers pay with discomfort what later generations will enjoy as normal. Think of Israel standing at the water's edge when forward seemed impossible, and retreat meant slavery again, and hear the charge that split the sea. Exodus chapter 14, verse 15. A command to move when logic said, stay. Bridges are built to be walked on, and that sounds glamorous until you realize it means weight will pass over you while you hold. Yet in holding, you create safe passage, proving that what looked like a wall was only water awaiting instruction. The old world will not applaud you for leaving, and the new world will not celebrate you until it can rest on the ground you prepared. But heaven recognizes the architecture of your obedience. You are not between places because you are lost. You are between places because you are essential. The collapse of the government of darkness is not theoretical. It is observable to anyone with eyes trained by truth. You can feel the scaffolding shaking in institutions that once felt untouchable. Hear the creak of old stories as they fail to convince a generation allergic to captivity. Exhaustion is spreading where manipulation used to work, and hunger is rising where apathy once lived. These are labor signs, not death rattles. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 2 speaks of a people who sat in darkness seeing a great light. And the grammar matters. The light did not negotiate with the night. It arrived and changed the vocabulary of the landscape. Your awakening participates in that prophecy each time you refuse the lie that despair is realism and hope is naivete. Do not mistake turbulence for defeat. Shaking is how rotten roots are exposed, and exposure precedes healing. The crumbling you witness is the answer to prayers uttered by mouths that never met. A chorus of intercession finally tipping history. This is the hour when clarity becomes an act of mercy, and your clarity will steady many. The evidence that you were crafted for this is written in the very places where you were once dismissed. What you call setbacks have functioned as signatures authenticating your assignment because counterfeits rarely provoke sustained resistance. Psalm 23 verse 5 promises a table prepared in the presence of enemies, which is not a threat, but a location cue. Promotion happens within sight of contradiction so that no one can mistake the origin of your oil. Those who misunderstood you did not cancel your future. They curated your audience by revealing who could not steward your sensitivity. The rooms that could not hold you were never built to host the frequency you carry, and your leaving protected both your peace and their timing. Take inventory of the places where you were told to dim down. Those coordinates will soon become destinations that request your counsel. Rejection was not the absence of favor. It was favor's border patrol guarding the purity of your path. The seal on your life is not loud, but it is unbreakable. Courage is now the currency that converts everything you have learned into leadership others can follow. Heaven's instruction is as practical as it is holy. Be strong and courageous, a charge repeated to Joshua in Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Not because fear is a sin, but because courage is a decision repeated until fear forgets its lines. You will not feel ready. Readiness is rarely a feeling, but a series of faithful choices made while your hands still shake. Your words will not always sound perfect. Perfection is the idol that keeps prophets silent. And you are not called to be flawless, but to be faithful. Courage will look like one more honest conversation, one more boundary upheld, one more yes whispered, where you once said, maybe. When you move, you model. When you model, you multiply. When you multiply, you become what darkness fears most: outnumbered. Let your courage be a daily practice, a ritual of alignment that trains your nervous system to trust the peace that follows obedience. Courage is the lamp you hold. Guidance is the path it reveals. Here is the hidden truth many never speak aloud. There are people whose deliverance is scheduled for the day they hear you tell the truth you are afraid to say. They will not move at the sound of my voice or another's. Their code responds to yours, the way a locked door yields only to its appointed key. Some of them are sitting in boardrooms, some in bedrooms, some in pews, some in prisons of their own thoughts, and all of them are waiting without language for the shift you will articulate. When you step forward, their timelines accelerate, not because you are their savior, but because your obedience authorizes their courage. This is how heaven builds movements without marketing, by threading destinies through yeses whispered in ordinary rooms. Matthew chapter 5, verse 14 calls you a city set on a hill, which is less about prominence and more about responsibility. Light that hides is a contradiction of nature. Your voice is not optional decoration. It is necessary infrastructure for the future. This is the hinge of your story, the moment where explanation becomes embodiment, where understanding graduates into action. You are standing at a threshold, and thresholds do not yield to hesitation. They open to decisive steps. The sign that you have crossed will not be fireworks, but alignment. Conversations that once drained, you will lose their power. Rooms that once shrank, you will no longer fit. And peace will settle like a mantle you stop trying to earn. Heaven will not force your foot forward, but it has cleared the path. Your agreement is the final key. Choose the future that already recognizes your name, and watch how provision appears in corridors that were invisible until you moved. Let this be the day you stop postponing yourself, the day you sign with your life what your heart has been saying in whispers. Walk through, chosen one. On the other side, a people are already gathering around a table with your chair empty, waiting for the leader you finally decided to be. Leadership in the kingdom is not about titles or thrones. It is about frequencies and atmospheres. When you walk into a room carrying clarity, you alter the emotional climate without saying a word. True leadership is spiritual stewardship, holding peace in chaos, holding vision in confusion, holding hope in despair. This is why your training has been so intense, because heaven needed to make you a carrier, not just a speaker. A nation cannot be led into light by someone who only repeats what others say. It can only be led by someone who embodies what they proclaim. Your journey has been proof that you are becoming that embodiment. And the truth is, people are already following you without knowing it. Every step you take into freedom is a silent sermon preached to those watching from the shadows of their own lives. The story of Moses is not only history, it is a template. When God sent him to Pharaoh in Exodus chapter 5 verse 1 with the words, "Let my people go," it was not just a demand for freedom, but a prophetic act of leadership. Moses did not consider himself qualified. He argued, he feared, he doubted. Yet God used his obedience more than his eloquence. Chosen one, your mission mirrors his. You may feel unworthy, underprepared, or even overwhelmed, but heaven sees differently. Like Moses, your assignment is not only to walk out of your own Egypt, but to confront the systems of oppression and lead others toward the promised land of awakening. Every trembling yes you give is a strike against the government of darkness, and every step forward is a declaration that chains will no longer define destinies. This is the power of presence. It shifts more than words ever could. When Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5 verse 14 that you are the light of the world, he did not instruct you to try harder to shine. He reminded you that shining is your nature. The same is true for you. Your presence itself is disruptive to lies. Your authenticity dismantles deception. Your peace weakens confusion. You don't have to prove your light. You only have to stop hiding it. This is why your very existence irritates darkness. Because light is unarguable. It doesn't need permission to expose. And as long as you walk authentically, your life will serve as a torch for those wandering blind. The legacy you carry is not limited to this moment. What you cultivate now will ripple into generations you may never meet. Every time you choose truth over convenience, courage over fear, faith over doubt, you are planting seeds that will bear fruit in futures unseen. Think of Abraham in Genesis chapter 12, told to leave his land without knowing where he was going, only to become the father of nations. His obedience was not only for him, but for the countless who came after. In the same way, your alignment will bless people you may never speak to. Your decisions will open doors your children and spiritual descendants will walk through, and your sacrifice will become someone else's inheritance. You are living a story that will outlive you. The power of your obedience is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, almost invisible. It might look like choosing not to compromise when no one is watching, like refusing bitterness when betrayal knocks, like saying yes to your inner knowing when fear tempts you to delay. These choices do not trend on social media, but they resound in eternity. And others feel them, even without knowing the source. Have you noticed how people come to you with burdens they can't explain, simply because your presence feels safe? That is not coincidence. It is the invisible ministry of a soul aligned with light. Many are already following you, not because you demanded it, but because your example gives them permission to hope. This moment of awakening is bigger than your personal breakthrough. It is part of humanity's collective transition. The old order of control, fear, and manipulation is collapsing, and the new order of awareness, authenticity, and light is rising. The reason you feel so much pressure now is because you are positioned at the hinge of history. Your individual shift contributes to a global one. Each soul that awakens adds weight to the tipping point. And this is why your role is essential. You are not only experiencing transformation, you are helping anchor it for others. The revolution of light does not come through violence or force, but through countless individuals living aligned. You are one of them, and your alignment matters. And so I ask you, chosen one, have you considered the possibility that your very existence is strategic? That God scattered chosen ones across the earth like torches planted in advance of the great collapse, ensuring that when the old systems finally crumble, there will be light in every corner? What if your awakening is not isolated, but part of a larger orchestration? What if you were positioned in your city, your family, your community, precisely because when others lose hope, they will look for someone who already carries clarity? And what if that someone is you? These questions are not accusations, but invitations. They invite you to see yourself not as a random survivor, but as a deliberate answer. You have walked through valleys that no one else saw, chosen one, carrying weights that would have broken another. There were nights when you doubted your own strength, when tears felt like the only prayer left in you, when silence felt like abandonment. Yet every moment of despair has been noticed and counted. Heaven did not ignore your cries. It stored them as seeds for the very harvest of compassion you will soon release to others. Your pain has been training you to recognize pain in others without judgment. Your wounds have been turning into wisdom you will one day speak, and your scars have been teaching you to hold space for those who have yet to heal. The loneliness that tried to suffocate you has instead made your heart a wider place, capable of sheltering many. What felt like breaking has actually been the breaking open of a reservoir inside you, so that when you pour out, it will not be shallow inspiration, but deep sustenance for thirsty souls. Everything you lost, every relationship that ended, every opportunity that evaporated, none of it has been wasted. The restoration that is coming is not just a replacement of what was taken, but a transformation of who you have become. When God restores, He does not return things as they were. He multiplies them, reshapes them, and turns them into instruments for your assignment. Job's story is not in the Bible as a tragedy, but as a testimony of this very truth. After all the losses, his latter days were more blessed than his beginning. This is the principle at work in you now. Your tears have been watering ground that will soon produce a harvest far beyond your imagination. And the beauty of it is that when restoration arrives, it will not trap you back into old patterns, but propel you forward into new dimensions. You are not being restored to your past self. You are being restored to your future self. And know this with certainty. You have never been alone on this path. The unseen help has been closer than your breath. Angelic presence guarding your steps. Divine timing orchestrating meetings. Unseen hands holding you when you felt like falling. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 14 calls angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation. And this has been true for you in ways you may only understand later. Every time you almost gave up but somehow didn't, every time you narrowly escaped what could have crushed you, every time you felt a sudden peace in the middle of chaos, those were not coincidences. They were reminders that you are surrounded, backed, and supported by a realm that believes in your assignment even when you doubt it. This invisible backing is not just for your survival, but for your mission, because what you are about to step into cannot be carried alone. The restoration ahead will not only rebuild what was lost, but also reveal the allies you never knew you had, both seen and unseen. You must remember, chosen one, that your calling has never been about simply surviving this life or collecting blessings for yourself. It has always been about guiding others into the light. You were not designed to sit on the sidelines of history, watching passively while systems of darkness consume humanity. No, you were set apart to become a living testimony that truth is stronger than deception, that clarity can pierce confusion, that love dismantles control. You may doubt your qualifications, but heaven never chose you for your resume. You were chosen because your heart has been softened through suffering and strengthened through endurance. And when hearts are both soft and strong, they carry the authority to lead. Your very existence is a protest against the lie that the government of darkness will reign forever. You are proof that light has already won. The urgency of this hour is not something to take lightly. Look around. The structures that once looked unshakable are trembling. The voices that once dominated are being exposed. The illusions that once blinded are losing their power. This is the appointed time, and hesitation is no longer an option. The book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 14, reminds us, "Perhaps you were born for such a time as this." That verse is not just ancient history, it is prophetic for you now. You are alive in this moment of global shaking for a reason. Your light is not late, it is on time. And the longer you delay embracing it, the longer others will stumble in the dark, waiting for your courage to give them permission. The vision of the future is not bleak, it is radiant, but only because souls like yours are saying yes to the call. Imagine a world where fear no longer dictates decisions, where truth is not silenced, where compassion becomes the foundation of leadership, and where authenticity is more powerful than control. That world begins with individuals like you living courageously in alignment. When Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, "Let your light shine before others," he was not describing a suggestion, but a blueprint for transformation. Your light, multiplied by countless other chosen ones, becomes the dawn of a new era. This is why the darkness has fought you so hard, because the future you carry threatens its very existence. But be warned, hesitation is the greatest danger now. If you allow fear to hold you back, if you let self-doubt silence you, if you choose the comfort of invisibility over the risk of obedience, then entire groups of people may continue wandering without guidance. That is why the pressure on your spirit has been so relentless. It is not cruelty, it is urgency. Heaven is pressing you to act because delay costs lives, not only yours but those tethered to your destiny. Like the parable in Matthew chapter 25 about the talents, what you carry is not meant to be buried. It is meant to multiply, to produce, to impact. And burying it does not keep it safe. It keeps it from fulfilling its purpose. The truth is both simple and profound. One flame can ignite thousands. One decision can alter generations. One voice can shift the trajectory of a nation. You do not need to be perfect to lead. You only need to be willing. And once you take that step, you will find that the universe itself begins to rearrange in your favor. Doors that were locked will swing open, resources that were hidden will appear, and people you have never met will recognize your light and join your journey. This is the mystery of obedience. It multiplies beyond your calculation. You are not as small as you feel. You are a seed carrying an entire forest inside you. All it takes is your yes. So let this moment be the turning point, chosen one. No more running from yourself. No more shrinking to fit cages you outgrew. No more waiting for external confirmation when heaven has already spoken. You were chosen not for a distant day, but for now. Your steps will not be easy, but they will be guided. Your words may tremble, but they will carry fire. Your heart may feel the weight, but it will also feel the joy of watching others awaken, because you dared to shine. And in that moment, you will finally see what all the pain, all the isolation, all the rejection was for. It was not to destroy you. It was to prepare you to lead a nation into the light. And when the story of your life is told, it will not be remembered for how perfectly you avoided mistakes or how quietly you stayed safe. It will be remembered for how courageously you walked when the world needed light the most. Your scars will be badges of authority, your tears rivers of compassion, your yes a doorway for multitudes. The government of darkness will rule no more, because your very existence has become a decree that its reign is finished. And with every step you take, with every word you speak, you will not only confirm your destiny, you will also awaken others to theirs. This is the legacy of the chosen ones, and you, beloved, are one of them. Before you leave this moment, chosen one, I want you to make a declaration that will echo beyond this video. Write in the comments the words, "I choose the light," not as a cliché, but as a spiritual contract, a way of saying to heaven and to yourself that you accept the mantle you were born to carry. Share this video with someone you know is also waking up, because your sharing might be the very spark they need to believe they are not alone. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and activate the notifications so that every new message arrives as a reminder of your path. When you do these simple actions, you are not just supporting an algorithm. You are aligning yourself with a flow of words and truths designed to strengthen you in your journey. Every comment, every click, every engagement becomes a small but real act of agreement with the mission to spread light. This is how we build a network of chosen ones across the earth, each one shining, each one awake, each one ready. And to those who already support this work through Buy Me a Coffee, know that your generosity keeps these messages alive. So, thank you. If you also feel led to sow into this mission, the link is in the description and pinned comment below. Chosen One, you are a living answer to prayers spoken in the dark, a torch ignited in advance of the dawn. Take this message into your week as a prophecy. The government of darkness will rule no more, and your life will be one of the reasons why. Walk in courage, walk in clarity, walk in light. You are not only chosen, you are rising.